So recently I was on YouTube and I saw a video that made me enraged. It made me so full of outrage, as content is wont to do on the internet. It was a video that I think Vanity Fair or GQ, actually let's look it up so we know our aggressor here. Hold on a sec. It was GQ, I was right. GQ put out a video a while back called Motorcycle Expert Breaks Down All These Celebrity Motorcycles, right? And when I saw this, I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. Maybe I should check this out. I clicked on it, and yeah, this dude, Jim, or whatever his name is, with the cap like this, was not in any classification or qualification a motorcycle expert. It looked like they just kind of plucked this dude off the street and they were like, hey, do you know stuff about bikes? And he was like, well, I own a car club in Manhattan. And they were like, cool, you're in. So today, as another white dude with a black hat, this time actually pointing the right direction, I thought it'd be fun if I, a true motorcycle expert, weighed in on celebrity motorcycles and had some fun with this video today. So my background, in case you don't know, if you're watching this video from the trending tab after the 10 million views that it gets, Jesus. I'm a huge bike advocate, obsessed person. I own this channel that does all kinds of motorcycle stuff. I've bought like 10 bikes this year. I own 6 right now. I know a lot about this stuff, and that qualifies me as an expert. So let's get into it. All right, first name up on this list, big name, you know who he is? It's the Usher. You didn't think that Usher actually owned motorcycles or did anything like that, did you? But he does. Not only does he find time to make songs for middle schoolers to grind and dance on, but leave a little bit of room for Jesus, he also finds time to ride some pretty sweet bikes. So the first bike that Usher actually owns is a Ducati 848 Evo. The Ducati 848 Evo is the 2 generations ago version of Ducati's small super sport bike as opposed to their big brother bike. So what Ducati does is whenever they make a super bike, let's say the new Panigale V4, right? They'll make the V4 and then they'll also make a corollary sort of like little brother version of that bike. They've been doing that for generations. So the 848 was the mid-2000s version of the 1098 that used to be around. So big V-twin engine, supple power, it used to compete with the Triumph Daytona 600s back in the day. So good taste for Usher, but he also owns a Ducati Monster 1100 Evo. So our boy Ursh is a Ducatista, we can say that for sure. And if you don't know, the Monster is a bike it's naked, so it doesn't have all that kind of sport bike fairing stuff on it. It's easier to ride because it's a little more upright, but with 1100 cc's, it's definitely going to be quite a ripper. I actually rode a Monster 1200S, one of the newer editions, a few weeks ago here in Austin, and I really enjoyed the bike, but they've made a lot of improvements to it over time. So that's pretty sweet that Usher is a Ducatista. Up next is our boy. Everyone knows this guy. It's Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is a known avid motorcycle enthusiast, fan, and he's featured in a lot of movies riding them as well. To the classic Top Gun, where he rides the GPZ 900, the old Kawasaki big bore, big bad superbike looking thing. But he's also known for doing a lot of his stunts in his own movie too. He's also known for never wearing a helmet, like, ever. I've never seen Tom Cruise wear a helmet ever. So he's a certified squid. And if you don't know, if you're watching this video and you're some normie who doesn't know anything about bikes, the squid is a person who doesn't wear any gear, rides recklessly, and is in general pretty dumb on a motorcycle. But I don't think Tom is dumb. So what does he own? So the first bike that Tom owns that I'm going to be taking a look at today is the Virus 987C34V. I had to make sure I got those numbers and letters all correct because it's like a goddamn computer SSD card. This bike sounds like it. So what is the Virus? It's a $100,000 Bmw Tezzy double swing arm supercharged 1198cc V-twin engine having insanity of a motorcycle. So Again, this thing cost 100 grand. I don't really know when it was built, so I'm not gonna look that up. I'll let you guys know that I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. It's just like this crazy hand-built, like super carbon fiber insanity of a machine. They made a bunch of different like levels of it. So this edition that Tom has is the highest spec one you can get, obviously. And the Bmw Tezzy is known for having a double swing arm setup. So normally on a motorcycle, the front suspension is taken care of by two telescopic forks. So those forks with oil and springs inside of them make sure that the bike has enough suspension travel when you go over a bump or you're braking, and then through damping and rebound settings, you can make that stiffer or looser if you want. Looser? I don't know, stiffer or springier, or you can adjust it depending on the bike. But this motorcycle features what's known as a double swing arm setup. So the swing arm is normally the thing that's reserved for the rear of the motorcycle. You have one shock usually and a swing arm that goes back and forth depending on what the motorcycle is doing. But the Tezzy and the Virus have a double swing arm setup. So you notice the front end looks super different than a regular motorcycle, and that makes it super unique and interesting. You will probably never see one of these bikes in person ever in your life, I don't think. They're very, very rare and very expensive. So Tom is also a Ducatista. He owns a Ducati 999R and a Desmo Sedici RR. So the 999R was a special edition, last edition of the Ducati 999 generation. So that was the ugly, like double Cyclops looking motorcycle that they made for a while there in the early 2000s that replaced the old 996 or 998. No, 996. The Ducati numbers start getting a little confusing after a while, but that was the really, really pretty Ducati from the 90s that they made, starting with the 916. They kept that body style and they increased the engine for throughout the 90s. Then starting with the 999 generation, they did a pretty controversial thing, made it a little bit uglier, but it was actually a much better motorcycle than the one that came before it. The 999R is actually the last generation and sort of ultimate edition of this Ducati. Ducati's known for doing that. They've done it throughout all the rest of the Panigales and 1098s and 1099s. They always make an R edition as their kind of stamp to finish off the bike and then start production on the new ones. Probably not to start production on the new ones, but rather to just put a bow on that version of their superbike and call it a day. So the 999R is incredibly rare. They didn't make very many of them, but it still features the big V-twin engine that's found in those Ducatis. But then the Desmo Sedici RR that Tom also owns was this absolutely gorgeous, very, very rare and very expensive Ducati that they made back in 2008. So as I mentioned, Ducati is known for producing V-twin engines. They've done it for years and years and years, but the Desmo Sedici RR, to commemorate their new efforts in MotoGP and their new racing efforts using a V4 engine, which is 4 cylinders stacked like this, featured a V4 engine. So it featured a 998cc V4 engine, made incredible noises, incredible sounds, incredible performance for the time as well, and cost an astonishing $72,000 back in 2008. The crazy thing is that nowadays, because bikes have gotten so powerful and so fast and so crazy, that your kind of run-of-the-mill superbike nowadays is about as fast and about as crazy as the Ducati Desmo Sedici RR was back in 2008. When this thing came out in 2008, it was like, whoa, what is this thing? And it kind of, if you think about it, opened the door to a lot of the stuff we have now, like the HP4 Race and the V4R and all those kinds of bikes as well. All right, so next celebrity on our list is none other than Brad Pitt. You know who he is, everyone knows who he is the hunk from the 90s and the 2000s, did The Fight Club, did the other movie that I can't remember, and a lot of other stuff that you guys have seen. So he's super well known guy. In terms of motorcycling, is he a real biker or is he not? Let's see at some of the bikes that he owns. So one of Brad's favorite motorcycles that he owns is actually a Bmw R11 GS. So this is what's known as an adventure motorcycle. So if you look at this bike, you might think it kind of looks like a sport bike, kind of looks like a dirt bike. You're not really sure where to put it, and that's okay, because not many people know about this style of bike unless you're a biker yourself. These bikes are designed to go on really long distances across country and to maybe tackle a little bit of light off-roading. They're known for having tons of really cool features and technology. think of this as kind of like the suburban SUV of the motorcycling world. They're packed full of features and technology, they're pretty heavy, and they're designed to do a lot of different things. So Brad actually owns one of the OG kind of like new generation adventure bikes. It's the R1150 GS. So this motorcycle was actually the one featured in Ewan McGregor's Long Way Round, and I think Long Way Down as well. I think they used the BMW 1150 for those as well. So super capable machine, but Brad probably likes riding this one around more than your crotch rockets and that kind of stuff, because those bikes are just not very comfortable to ride around town. Something like an adventure bike is going to be upright, nice and comfortable, big torquey engine, and it's just fun to goon around in low speeds through traffic and stuff, and you can take it on a big long trip if you want. So that's probably why it's his favorite bike. So Brad also owns a Yamaha R1, and I hope that it's a generation after 2008, because that's when they came out with the cross-plane crank for that engine. So the Yamaha R1 features an inline 4-cylinder engine, but with this cross-plane configuration, it means that the cylinders fire in a bit of a different order than your traditional inline 4-cylinder engine. That gives it this really cool kind of howling, growly kind of sound. It's really, really different than anything you hear on a traditional sport bike. But in researching for this video, one of the articles I came across has a picture of Brad and Angelina Jolie in Thailand, I believe it is, and it states that he's riding around on the R1 here in Thailand, but anybody with a brain can see that that's clearly a scooter in Thailand. That's not, I know it's hard to believe, but that scooter is not in fact an R1. I know, it's crazy, but this is what you get when normies try to make biker content. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And as a side note, Brad also owns a Desmo Sedici RR just like Tom, so that's pretty crazy, but it just solidifies my opinion that these bikes are not for us mere mortals. They are for the vaunted celebrities and high status people of the world, and you and I are never gonna own them. Up next is the guy we mentioned previously. It's Ewan McGregor. So unless you live under a rock, you know that Ewan McGregor is a hardcore bike enthusiast. He's made the documentaries Long Way Down and Long Way Round, where he rode an adventure bike, the BMW R1150 GS, with his friend Charlie Boorman, who is also a great rider and went along with him on those trips. And Ewan McGregor is also known for being the coolest Jedi in the series Star Wars. Maybe Samuel L. Jackson has him right up there, but let's take a look at some of the bikes in his personal collection. So Ewan actually owns a BSA Bantam D1. The Bantam D1 is actually not that rare of a bike. They made about 250,000 of these D1s. It has a little 125cc two-stroke engine, so that means that it's not a traditional four-stroke engine like you'd see in modern motorcycles, where the piston actually has to move 4 times to complete one combustion cycle. These were much more simple machines, and so they only did 2 strokes to actually complete their combustion cycle. This bike is actually from 1952, so even though they made a ton of them, it's still pretty difficult to find and source and kind of keep track of a 1952 bike. Parts are not readily available, and it is difficult to work on. These bikes are what's known as kind of like the lightweight, like traditional British kind of motorcycles from this era, but actually it was the Germans who made this format of this small sort of 125cc two-stroke engine bike thing combination that pretty much everybody copied. Japan copied it with the Yamaha YA1 Dragonfly, and then BSA also copied it too. So in the 50s and 60s, probably not 60s, in the 50s you'd see these sort of small 125cc two-strokes pretty much everywhere. So the BSA is one of them. It's pretty cool he has it in his collection. Ewan also has a 1972 Moto Guzzi V7 Sport. So the V7 Sport from Moto Guzzi, if you don't know anything about Moto Guzzi, they are known for making a lot of different types of bikes, but the thing they're most famous for is that they mount their V-twin engines transverse instead of sort of longitudinal on the motorcycle. So if you've ever seen a Harley, you'll notice that the 2 cylinders kind of sit like this, and you ride along like this, and the 2 cylinders chug away like this. On a Moto Guzzi, the 2 cylinders are going this way. So you'll see in a photo of the Moto Guzzi that the cylinder heads kind of jut out from the center there. So it's a really unique feature that Moto Guzzis have. So the V7 was kind of like Moto Guzzi's, you know, it's kind of like their super bike from the 70s. Back in the day, this thing made like 70 horsepower. A lot of people who rode it at the time said it was kind of a rocket ship. So This is sort of like your factory fresh cafe racer that came from Italy and just had tons and tons of power. That's kind of what it was known for. Last but not least, it's our boy. Everyone knows him too, especially in the motorcycling community. It's Keanu Reeves. So Keanu Reeves is known actually in the biker community for creating his own motorcycle company. It's called Arch Motorcycles. You've probably seen a video. I think GQ actually did a video where Keanu was talking about his company and talking about the bikes that he owns. And I thought it'd be cool to include him here. If you don't know, Keanu is a huge bike fan, and he owns a lot of different bikes, so I'll try to condense a couple of the cooler ones that I found that he owns. If you know anything about the Arch motorcycles, you know that Keanu has a big affinity for V-twins, these big air-cooled engines. He has a ton of choppers and Harleys and that kind of stuff, and the engine that's featured in the Arch is also a V-twin. But apparently, according to my research, his very first motorcycle was a KLR 600 way back in the day. He had just finished up filming something and he flew back to LA, and then he just picked up this KLR 600 and then just started putting on the miles. So it goes to show you that even as an actor, you can have humble beginnings and start with a wretched POS of a KLR, but you know, it is what it is. Apparently it's one of Keanu's favorite bikes. He's owned it for quite some time and had a lot of fun learning and riding on that bike. So KLR 600. Keanu Reeves approved. As a side note as well, and some of the other things I was researching about Keanu Reeves, I found that he owned a Kawasaki ZX-10, which is a Ninja, which is a sport bike, kind of like an R1, super bike, that sort of thing. And the article that I looked up had it written as the Yamaha ZX-10 Ninja. This is why normies cannot write things about bikes, man. Y'all just cannot get it right. You had to take 2 seconds to Google it, and it would have told you everything you needed to know, that this is obviously not a Yamaha. It's a Ninja. It's a ZX-10. This is an early 2000s version with the kind of bubble headlight and the ram air right at the front. So you just had to take 2 seconds. 2 seconds was all you needed to take. The other bike that he owns is a Ducati 998. So we were talking about the 999 earlier in this video with the double headlights and talking about how the 90s 998 and 916 generation Ducatis were these really pretty, beautiful, single-sided swing arm bikes. But the 998 actually featured in Keanu's collection is the one from The Matrix. So it's that cool kind of custom green colored Ducati 998 that's featured in the movie. So similar to the 999, it's going to feature a big V-twin engine mounted this way, not this way like the Moto Guzzi. And it's just a really peachy, kind of sweetheart of a bike to ride. Velvety smooth torque at the bottom end, and kind of this clattery idle at stop signs and that kind of stuff. So the 998 is a really cool bike, and I can understand why Keanu would want to own one, especially one from the movies. So guys, that's gonna wrap up a couple celebrities that we'll take a look at here. I hope this video was cooler and more informative, and hopefully you realize that I am an actual motorcyclist, unlike the dude at GQ, and I had a lot of fun making this video. If you liked the video, please subscribe to the channel. It does help us out a lot. You'll stay up to date on a lot of cool stuff we're doing here. If it's the first time you've stumbled across this video of my channel, welcome. This is a very strange place. I scream about Hayabusas and make weird list videos, and overall just I give away motorcycles too. It's really crazy. You should definitely subscribe and check it out. But with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. See you later.